Police believe a Hamilton woman missing since early December is the victim of foul play. We're going to have an update on the investigation coming up with our crime analyst, Steve Ryan.
And Mayor Olivia Chow calls the pace of snow removal in Toronto unacceptable. We're going to tell you what she wants to do about it coming up.
And 2 days before the provincial election, people gather outside the Ministry of Health downtown to protest the government's plan to shut down 10 supervised drug consumption sites.
This is Live at 5. Good evening. I'm Bakari Savage.
And I'm Lena Latifat. Welcome to Live at 5. Hamilton Police. They're searching a landfill for a woman who's been missing for more than 2 months.
A 40-year-old Shalini Singh was reported missing December 10th. A security video from her apartment shows the last time she left the building was December 4th, the same day that she last spoke to her family. Police believe that she is the victim of foul play.
The initial information gathered during this investigation has caused growing concerns for Shalini's well-being. In the beginning, Shalini was reported missing alongside her common-law boyfriend. But he was later located on December the 11th after he attended a family member's residence outside of Hamilton. He is not cooperating with the police investigation, and he has provided no information that has assisted us in locating Shalini.
And along with that, police believe that she may have been killed in her apartment and removed through the garbage disposal system. So yesterday, they started a search of the Glanbrook landfill. That's expected to take weeks. And at this point, police are not identifying her partner or describing him as a suspect in her disappearance.
For more on insight on this investigation, we're joined live now by CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Steve, what stands out to you about the story and this case?
The boyfriend. The fact that the boyfriend was reported missing with her on December the 10th. The boyfriend shows up on December the 11th. And the boyfriend is not cooperating with the investigator. So right away, that is a red flag. And I'm certainly not suggesting he's responsible for this homicide. But if you just go by statistics, statistically, if a woman is murdered, it's typically done by a past or present intimate partner or somebody who she loved and trusted. This guy would fit that category, of course, because it was her common law. So he needs to be cleared one way or the other. And it doesn't matter whether or not he wants to cooperate with the investigators. There are other investigative techniques that they can use to clear him as a potential suspect, because he would be number one on my list with regards to potential suspects or persons of interest.
So when do things start to add up for police?
We follow the evidence. So it may not add up right away, or it may take some time. So you follow the evidence and you actually go to where the evidence might be. And where the evidence might be in this case is the landfill site, also the common law boyfriend. He is a key part of this, and they need to get a statement from him of some sort, even if it is to tell where they were for those few days when they were reported missing. But he is key to this investigation, in my opinion. And I think that he'll be somebody who the police will work diligently on trying to clear him as a person of interest, or perhaps even name him as a suspect.
So how do police work around the fact that he's not willing to cooperate with investigators at this point, Steve?
Yeah, well, he's not required by law to cooperate with the police, but there are other investigative techniques that I don't want to disclose, but there are many of them that they can use to clear him as a suspect, rather, or include him as a suspect. But he certainly is somebody who needs to be cleared at some point in time.
And so even talking about the evidence, there's no evidence of how she got out of the apartment or how her body got out of the apartment.
The police believe that her remains were put into a garbage disposal unit, and this is what's taken them to the landfill site now. And that's not uncommon for people who commit homicides to try to dispose of one's remains, thinking that if it goes to a landfill site that nobody's going to find them. And this is why the police are working diligently now trying to find her remains, if in fact they are in this site.
Okay, Steve, thanks so much for your insights. We appreciate your analysis.
You got it.
Thanks
It's 5:05 now, 5 degrees. Let's get a check on the commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adjoa and Siayabwa. Hey, Adj.
Oh, hey, Lena. Hey, Bakari. It has been quite the busy afternoon, and been watching a lot of problems that are just not leaving. So we'll start with issues through Midtown on the eastbound lanes of the 401 in the collectors through Weston Road. Still this left lane and shoulder still out following this ongoing crash. At least emergency crews are on scene. That's where the good news ends. It's very slow, both core and collectors from the 410. Further east on the 401 as you make your way through Port Union, just past Port Union in the transfers. Find the right lane blocked to the stall. This one not really impacting your drive. We do have problems. This is on the Toronto-bound QEW. We had problems at the top of the ramp to Trafalgar. Left lane was out with the stall. It might have cleared. They might just be at a light. And problems that continue are on the eastbound lanes of the Gardiner just as you make your way through Strawn. This situation has been going on for 3 hours. Stalled vehicle in the right lane. Not too sure what the holdup is, but it's a slow go. I'll send it back to you both.
This CP24 traffic report is brought to you by 407 ETR. Enjoy the journey with a stress-free commute.
Well, Mayor Olivia Chow is calling for a review of a contract with a snow removal company, with cleanup efforts still underway after 2 major storms.
CP24's Beatrice Vaisman joins us live with this story. Beatrice.
Carolina, some 53 centimeters of snow fell here in the city after back-to-back-to-back snowstorms. And the mayor saying it's incredibly frustrating with just how slow the process has been to clear it. We're live on a sidewalk here in North York. Look at what it looks like here on the ground. I mean, you can see the tire marks on this sidewalk. It's nice and clear. If only this is what every sidewalk in the city looked like. That is certainly not the case. And so today, the GM of the Transportation Services for the city, Barbara Gray, taking a lot of heat, not just from reporters, but from the mayor, from councillors, about needing to do better. And here's how she responded.
It is very difficult for people to wrap their brain around the scale of this problem. It is a very, very large problem, and it is slow moving. We've been very, very clear and transparent about the fact that snow removal takes a very long time, and we are committed to get it done because we're not done with winter yet. You know, we're going to get more snow, so it's really important that we're working to try to reset when we have these tall windrows. And I really want to say that I understand people's concerns and frustrations, including the mayor and the councillors and all the residents. And I can only assure you that we are working to try to resolve this significant snowfall, and we will continue to work until we get the job done.
And that was Barbara Gray's response to my question about how can she reconcile the fact that she says things are going as planned, on schedule even, Lena and Bakari, when the mayor is saying it's frustrating and it's slow, and we need the city manager to go and look at how to better improve winter maintenance for the future. And so Mayor Olivia Chow asking the city manager to do a number of things. 1, conducting a full review of winter maintenance operations. 2, investigate the gap between city reports that 100% of sidewalks were cleared. Barbara Gray said there's a difference. She said the sidewalks were plowed, not cleared. Talking semantics here. 3, determine whether private winter maintenance contractors have upheld their obligations in their contracts. Again, she said that she's been happy with how the contractors have been conducting their work through this cleanup. And 4th, asking the city manager, the mayor is, to evaluate all options to improve winter maintenance work, including renegotiating or breaking existing contracts. As for who's to blame, the mayor says ultimately the buck does stop with her as the leader of this city. Listen.
Ultimately, myself as the mayor is responsible. Unfortunately, I wasn't here when the contract was signed, and the contract was locked in for 7 years. And can I break the contract? I don't know. What is the penalty? I don't know. So can we do better? Absolutely. And that is why I am here to say that we have to change. And we will make the change. And whatever it takes, we will make it better.
The mayor was really frustrated. I mean, I had a few words with her after that press conference. It was clear that her blood was boiling over the situation. A lot of questions for city staff, and city staff saying today that they welcome any review from the mayor, from councillors, and they'll work with the auditor general as well to determine how to better improve winter maintenance services across the city. Because guess what? We live in a winter city. It's Toronto. It's going to snow again. And we've got to figure out the best way to deal with all this white stuff. Back to you guys.
All right, CP24's Beatrice Vaisman. It's now 5:08, holding at 5 above zero. This is Live at 5.
The provincial election just 2 days away now. We're going to have the latest from the campaign trail and take a look at the latest poll coming up. Welcome back. Harm reduction advocates are urging the next Ontario government to keep the province's supervised drug consumption sites open.
And for more on this, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan as vigils are being held.
Yeah, that's right, Bakari. There were 6 rallies actually held in 6 different communities across Ontario today as part of this provincial day of action. It was last summer that we heard from the Ford government saying that they were set to close supervised consumption sites within 200 meters of schools and of daycares, saying they heard from families who say their communities are less safe because of these sites. Well, we have been hearing from a number of advocates since that announcement was made, harm reduction advocates, people who work with vulnerable people, saying that closing down these sites, 10 of them in all across Ontario, 5 of them here in Toronto, that it is going to cost lives. And with 2 days to go until the provincial election, they want to share their message, something that they want voters to think about when they cast their vote at the ballot box. Joining me now is outreach worker Lorraine Lamb. Thanks so much for being with us tonight, Lorraine.
Thanks so much.
We saw this rally here today in the city. What is your message? What do you want people to keep in mind when it comes to these supervised consumption sites?
You know, I think that there's this idea that removing the sites will somehow stop all drug use, but we know that that's not true. I think that, the Ford government has framed this whole conversation as a false binary, that people are either going to have to be abstinent and go to treatment or otherwise they're using the sites. But, I think drug use is on a continuum. And I think that, the false binary is simply just, I would say, a distraction, right? Like, people can use the sites and can access healthcare and can pursue treatment options. But right now, what the Ford government is proposing to do is he's actually taking away lifelines for people that are drowning. And so if he does move forward with closing these sites, people are going to die. We know that the toxic drug supply is at a crisis level, and that's why there are so many overdose deaths. And so why would he do that? Why would he choose to just let people out to die?
Yeah, I don't know. With organizing these rallies today, the message that organizers put out is that since 2018, more than 23,000 people have died because of the toxic drug crisis in our province. We've been seeing a number of protests, rallies from organizations pushing back to this plan from the government. But right now, these sites are set to close by the end of next month. Next month, beginning just days from now. I wonder what your kind of last-minute ditch attempt is going to be to try to keep these open, because the government has said they're not going to budge on this.
I think it's really important for people to recognize that actually, I know during the campaign trails, people are talking about hallway healthcare in hospitals. And I think it's important for people to recognize that closing these supervised sites means that drug use will continue, the toxic drug supply will continue to exist, and we're going to be reliant on EMS services to provide support that actually these sites were already doing, which is actually going to increase the healthcare wait times in hospitals. And so I think that's definitely something to consider. I think the other thing to consider is, again, let's say, we discovered that the alcohol that people are drinking for social reasons was tainted. We wouldn't just shut down bars and shut down the LCBO. No, we would suggest measures to promote safety. We would put in regulations, which we do have now. And so by closing supervised consumption sites, you're actually not removing the root causes of the issues here around the toxic drug supply. And I think these vigils across the province are highlighting that this is a life or death issue. Voting is about life or death policies, and voting in the Ford government is going to mean that you're legislating death for thousands and thousands of people. And I hope that people can see that that is just simply not an option.
Lorraine Lamb, I appreciate you joining us tonight. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much.
Now, we do know that the provincial government, before the legislature was dissolved, announced that they would be opening up heart hubs. Those are sites that would provide services to address homelessness and addiction. But one thing that those sites do not allow, and that is supervised consumption of drugs. And that is what these advocates say is going to cost lives. Lena Bakari, back to you.
Okay, Melissa Duggan, thanks so much. Well, Ontario's main political party leaders continue to push for your vote with just 2 days to go until Election Day.
PC leader Doug Ford started in Ottawa this morning and back in Mississauga this afternoon. Ford released his platform yesterday. It contains $40 billion worth of promises, but doesn't include the cost of a tunnel under the 401. Green Party leader Mike Schreiner is campaigning in cottage country.
And Stiles, the NDP's Marit Stiles, that is, spoke about rent control and housing during her stop in London this morning and called out the Ford government for its track record on building homes.
This is the third election that he said he's going to build homes. Where are they? Where are they? They don't exist. And we just found out that he put 5,000 affordable homes on the back burner for this election in Toronto. How many more homes have been at risk here in London? So, we are committed to doing that. We have a very ambitious plan. It'll be a generational change for Ontario. Right now in Ontario, we are building at 1950s levels. While out in BC, under an NDP government, they are building 4 times the homes that we're building here right now.
An Ontario Liberal leader, Bonnie Crombie, campaigned in Toronto. This is where she pitched herself as the best leader to replace Doug Ford.
This government just simply has the wrong priorities. Look, people are struggling here in beautiful downtown Toronto in Regent Park, but right across this province, we see it. We see moms struggling to put food on the table for their children. We see people struggling to pay their rent and their cell phone bill and buy groceries for their family in this same month. We see that 2.5 million people don't have a family doctor right now.
And Green Party leader Mike Schreiner was in Huntsville, where he accused the Ford government of ignoring the needs of rural communities.
We need health care, not mega spas. We need health care, not highways. We need health care, not tunnels. What I'm hearing from people in Parry Sound, Muskoka, in ridings outside the GTA over and over again, they do not want a government that's going to waste $2.2 billion on a 4-node mega spa, $100 billion on a tunnel under the 401, or $10 to $12 billion on Highway 413 when we've got a perfectly good highway right next to it.
And during a stop in Ottawa, Ford was asked how effective his trips to Washington have been, given that U.S. President Donald Trump continues to say the tariffs are coming.
I truly believe we're moving the needle with the senators, the governors, the congresspeople. If you read the story in Politico, that story says everything. When they had the governors meeting, the loudest voice down there was ourselves, myself and Premier Houston. And I've yet to meet an American citizen, a governor, a senator, a congressperson that agrees with what President Trump is doing. It doesn't matter if it's Democrat or Republican.
Nanos Research poll for CTV News and CP24 shows PC leader Doug Ford maintaining a healthy lead over the other party leaders. When it comes to who voters want to be premier, Ford is up 1.6% to 40.7% support. Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie is almost half a point up to just over 24%. 14% said Marit Stiles and 7.2% chose Mike Schreiner. 5.4% of those surveyed chose none of the options and 8% said they were unsure.
And when it comes to overall party support, Doug Ford's Progressive Conservatives are up over 1% to 45.4%. The Liberals are up by 0.3% to 29.3%. The New Democrats are down 1% to 18.8% support, while the Green Party is up half a point to 4.3%.
If elections are times to kind of kick the tires and stuff like that, it looks like at least Ford's been able to kind of cruise through without any major turbulence so far. And, let's face it, there's still a couple days left. Something could happen. But, the thing is that there hasn't been a knockout punch, a punch. There hasn't been anger. There hasn't been a major mistake. Actually, none of the parties have made a mistake during the course of the election. And that's why the numbers are probably where they are.
And for more on the Ontario election campaign, head to our website, CP24.com, or the CP24 app.
Right now it's 5:20, holding at 5 above zero. This is Live at 5.
Coming up, Liberal leadership candidates will debate in English tonight after going head-to-head last night in the French language debate.
The candidates running to replace Justin Trudeau will go head-to-head in the English language debate tonight. This is after last night's French debate.
Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, Karina Gould, and Frank Bayless will go head-to-head went head-to-head for the first time last night in Montreal. The candidates were asked how they would respond to Donald Trump's tariff threats. Here's part of their responses.
I said that he wasn't. I said that he was going to target steel first, and that's exactly what he did. So I can't predict what he's going to do, and that's why I feel that I can prepare our defense and our counterattack as well.
This is not the first time that Mr. Trump is threatening us with tariffs against tariffs on steel and aluminium. We responded with counter tariffs, dollar for dollar.
We can't control President Trump, but we can be a master in our own house. We have to strengthen our economy immediately, and that will strengthen our negotiating position.
But what the president does respect is force, and I know how to respond to people that I don't agree with. I do it in the House of Commons. I've been doing this for many years.
And CTV News political commentator Scott Reed spoke to CP24 about what stood out to him during the French debate and what to watch for in tonight's contest.
Everybody pointed their fire at Donald Trump. One thing that was interesting, they didn't even talk a whole hell of a lot about Pierre Poilievre. We'll see if tonight in the English language debate that changes, but it was really a debate dominated by the topic of Trump. They weren't really slinging fire at one another. No one really wanted to want to take on Mark Carney.
Ontario Liberal leader Bonnie Crombie is endorsing Mark Carney to be the next federal Liberal leader.
In a statement out this morning, Crombie says that she's proud to offer Carney her support to be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. She says that she looks forward to working with him in the days and months ahead.
524 minus 5. You're watching Live at 5.
And up next, we'll take a look at a new study that finds a certain type of food is responsible for a third of heart and stroke deaths. A new study suggests ultra-processed foods are to blame for more than a third of heart disease and stroke deaths in Canada. Researchers found 38% of deaths from heart disease and stroke can be attributed to consuming ultra-processed foods. The category includes things like soft drinks, candy, and sweetened cereals. Scientists also found that 37% of new cases of heart disease and stroke were also tied to those products. And researchers say ultra-processed foods make up almost half of Canadians' daily energy intake.
It is shocking, but it's not surprising because already in 2017, Health Canada reported that about 50% of the burden of cardiovascular disease was due to our diet. So it's not surprising, but I think the results needs to be used to call for action to change the food system, because currently the food system is producing a lot of these ultra-processed products. They are abundant, they're cheap, they're heavily publicized. So we need to change the condition and context in which we are living to favor healthy choices.
And researchers estimate that if Canadians decrease their intake of ultra-processed food by 50%, it would prevent 45,000 new cases of heart disease and stroke and save more than 8,000 lives every year. Right now it's 5:28. This is Live at 5. The city says more than 114,000 tons of snow have been removed. This comes as Mayor Olivia Chow calls for a probe into the city's snow removal contract. And police believe a Hamilton woman missing since early December is the victim of foul play. We're going to have an update on this investigation coming up with CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan.
Mayor Olivia Chow calls the pace of snow removal in Toronto unacceptable. We'll tell you what she wants to do about that coming up.
And 2 days before the provincial election, people gather outside the Ministry of Health downtown to protest the government's plan to shut down 10 supervised consumption drug sites.
You're watching Live at 5. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lena Latafat.
And I'm Bakari Savage. Mayor Olivia Chow is calling for a review of a contract with the snow removal company, with cleanup efforts still underway after 2 major storms.
CP24's Beatrice Faisman joins us live with the very latest, and Olivia Chow is really frustrated about this. Beatrice.
She is, Lena. She was at this press conference this morning outside of a long-term care home called Monshong in the downtown core, saying, look, even outside of this residence where there's seniors coming out with mobility devices, the sidewalk is not cleared. And that's a frustration that a lot of people here in the city are facing today, that here we are some 10 days after this huge snowfall in the city, which saw some 53 centimeters blanket Toronto after 3 different snowstorms. And certainly we're nowhere near, I guess, the level that people expect. Although Barbara Gray, who's the head of transportation services for the city, saying crews are right on schedule when it comes to especially removing snow. A process, she says, is going to take 3 weeks. And as she said they are still on schedule. The mayor and councillors that were with her at this press conference saying this is unacceptable. We need to review these 7-year contracts that were awarded in 2021 to these winter maintenance crews. And so here's a bit of what we heard from Paul Ainsley, a councillor from Mount Scarborough.
Every winter I go out and I see issues like what's behind us. And it's not getting any better. Here we are almost a week and a half after the last snowstorm, and I still have to look behind me at a sidewalk in front of a senior's home, for example, that's not plowed. I'm still getting complaints from my residents that the streets, if they were plowed once, they weren't done properly, if they were done in a haphazard manner. And I'm going out and having to work with staff or call staff that are supposed to be out there monitoring the contractors and getting it done. So things have to change.
And Barbara Gray saying there's a distinct difference in semantics here. She said that she told the mayor the sidewalks were plowed, not that they were cleared. And so again, the mayor feeling very frustrated with the pace at which things are going here in the city when it comes to winter maintenance. And so what the mayor has done, she's written a letter to the city manager, Paul Johnson, to do a number of things. First, conduct a full review of winter maintenance operations in the city. 2, investigate the gap between city reports that 100% of sidewalks were cleared at least once, when that's not the case. Again, difference between cleared versus plowed. 3, determine whether the private winter maintenance contractors have upheld their obligations under their contracts. Barbara Gray today saying she's satisfied with the crews and the contractors that have been undertaking this massive job. And 4, evaluate all options to improve winter maintenance work, including renegotiating or even breaking existing contracts. That's something the mayor says she's willing to explore. And firstly, it'll have to be determined how much something like that would cost. Barbara Gray today responding to some of the mayor's concerns and some of the concerns from Toronto residents as well. Listen.
I do have confidence in the contractors that are hired. I think the proof is always in the pudding. It's a very, very big city to manage, both for the contracted crews and also for our own internal crews. And so having the tools to be able to look at that data and understand and make sure, previously in the previous contracts, we didn't have GPS on all the units, so we couldn't be as clear as to where the units were, how often they were going out, when they were going out, when the plow blade is down, when it's up. And we still have some glitches in that.
We also heard from Vince Ferrazzo at the city, who said up until a couple of years ago, it wasn't even in the contracts to plow the sidewalks. And so that's something that he says has improved. But both of these city workers saying that they're open to the mayor's criticisms, to the criticisms from councils for a full review to happen. And they're eager to hear from the Auditor General as well when they conduct a full review of the response to the 2025 storm. This was the biggest snowfall we had since the 2022 storm. And Bakari, I remember you being out there in the midst of that storm as it was just snowing nonstop. And so here we have kind of a deja vu situation.
Yeah, my neighbors had to help me shovel the car out so that I could get to work. I remember that. CP24's business basement.
Yeah, it's intense for an Alabama boy, isn't it?
Yeah, this is what living in Toronto and Canada is like, Bakari.
Yeah, 2022.
Thanks, Bakari. That's Beatrice.
Okay, let's get a check on the evening commute with CP24's traffic specialist, Adwa Intia Yeboah. Aj.
Oh, thank you, Bakari. And nobody's digging out any snow piles, at least not tonight. The temperature is pretty mild, but the drive not so sweet. We have these problems that are impacting the commute on the eastbound lanes of the Gardiner. This is just through Strawn. This issue has been here for 3 hours. Stalled vehicle, single file through here because it's through the construction zone. And again, very slow, pretty much from the 427 as the sun starts to set. Don Valley Parkway was spotting a problem northbound, just north of Bayview Bloor. It was a stall. It looks like it just cleared away. And you know what? We are dealing with some problems. These just coming into the traffic desk southbound on the 410, just south of Courtney Park. It's a stalled vehicle blocking that right lane as well as the right shoulder. On city streets, a collision in North York on Jane and Finch. Also, we have this ongoing collision on Ronsonvale and Galley, which is just north of the Queensway. I'll send it back to you both.
Thanks, Adjoa. Well, Hamilton police are searching a landfill for a woman who's been missing for more than 2 months.
The 40-year-old Shalini Singh and her common-law boyfriend, they were both reported missing December 10th. Her boyfriend was located the next day after he visited a relative's home outside of Hamilton. And police say that he's not cooperating with the investigation and has offered no information that could help find Shalini.
At the time of her disappearance, Shalini was living with her boyfriend in a downtown Hamilton apartment building. Despite several searches of that building, we have not located any evidence that's going to assist in locating Shalini. Our investigators have obtained hundreds of hours of video footage from that building and to follow Shalini and her boyfriend in her movements around the building before and after her disappearance. There is no video that we have located at this time that shows Shalini leaving her building after December the 4th.
Police believe she may have been killed in her apartment and removed through the garbage disposal system. Yesterday, they started a search of the Glanbrook landfill, which is expected to take weeks. Police are not yet identifying her partner, and they are not describing him as a suspect in her disappearance.
And for more insight on this investigation, we're now joined live by CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan. Steve, what do you make of this, with hearing these details at face value?
Well, I go back to the statistics that certainly speak the truth when it comes to women who are murdered. And most often, a woman is murdered by a past or present intimate partner or somebody who she loved or trusted. And I say that because just in investigative 101, if a woman is murdered and there is no evidence to the contrary, you have to look at the past or present intimate partners. Given the fact that her boyfriend was somebody who disappeared with her for a few days, and then he showed up on the December the 11th and would not disclose any information pertaining to this woman's whereabouts, he has to be cleared as a person of interest. And then once he's cleared, you clear all the other people who are close to her. And once you rule out all of them, then you can expand your investigation to perhaps even strangers. But at this point in time, statistics certainly tell the truth.
And Steve, police are on the scene of this landfill in hopes of finding this woman's body. This is a process that could take weeks. Can you talk about how challenging that might be, especially when you don't have a suspect in custody?
Yeah, it's very difficult, but you also get pretty good success rates. I was involved in 3 cases of homicide where we sent investigators down to Michigan back in the day when the garbage was collected here. That's where it was disposed of. And they did find parts, body parts. So the belief is that if her remains are in this landfill site, those investigators will most likely find it.
Okay, Steve, some people might say this is a silly question, but how expansive is the term foul play?
Well, foul play suggests that anything, a criminal could have happened. It's not by natural causes. Foul play suggests that there was a murder involved if, in fact, they're looking in a dump site for her remains. So that's foul play speaks loudly to police and to people in general, and they do suspect that she may have been murdered inside of her home. So there's your foul play right there.
And really, really quickly, Steve, what would it take for police to charge a suspect in this case?
Well, they need concrete evidence to have reasonable grounds to believe. So they would find information from the remains if, in fact, they are located, and perhaps cell records, any other communications that may have transpired between this woman and other people, and then they would ramp up their investigation.
But they don't need a body.
They don't need a body they don't need a body to lay a murder charge, but you do need evidence that the person was murdered. So very quickly, if in fact in the apartment there was enough blood in an apartment for a pathologist to say, if that person lost this amount of blood, they would have died, that's enough for a murder charge.
Okay, CP24's crime analyst. Thank you very much.
Sure got it.
With that, it's 5:40, holding at 5 above zero. This is Live at 5.
The provincial election is just 2 days away now. Coming up, we'll take a look at some of the key election issues. That's next.
We're 2 days away from the provincial election. CP24 spoke with some GTA mayors today about what their priorities are for the election and the key issues facing their residents.
Mississauga's Carolyn Parrish is taking steps to kickstart the building of more housing in her city, including slashing development charges. Here's more from her.
The Liberals have spoken about zero DCs. I'm a little skeptical because we're going to have a hard time doing 50%. And you can do it, as I said, in an area that's developed like ours, but you can't do it in a place like Caledon where they need all this infrastructure. So obviously the Liberals are aware of it. Bonnie was our mayor for 9 years. She knows what our problems are. And I have to say that the Tories have been very cooperative. Paul Calandra has come to our meetings. He's stayed in touch with us. He's gone through all the proposals we've got. So I'm optimistic whichever of the two wins, we're going to be in good shape.
The problem with knocking off development charges and not having them replaced with somewhere, and that's the key, is that you're taking, if we have to add that to a tax base, we're putting it on a property tax base. Property tax is a very regressive form of taxation. So having it on the property tax base is not going to be helpful, and it's not going to be helping with affordability. I think that there is a way for the provincial government and the federal government to look at ways to fund cities in a more sustainable way.
Well, the new survey finds nearly 70% of Ontarians say that a party stance on the housing crisis will influence their vote in the provincial election.
Housing is the #1 election concern among young voters in this Royal LePage survey. 75% of millennials and 72% of Gen Z or Gen Z say their vote will be influenced by a candidate's position on addressing the housing supply and affordability crisis. 38% of respondents would consider relocating within Ontario for more affordable housing, while 1 in 5 would consider a move outside the province.
And Royal LePage broker Sean Ziegelstein joined us this afternoon with his thoughts on the housing crisis.
They're looking at it from the point of how are we going to ever afford a home like our parents have done? And the expectation, of course, for everybody is that they're going to be able to purchase a property, be it a condo, be it a house down the road. And unfortunately, they don't see that avenue right now. So they're looking at different ideas. As you mentioned earlier, they may buy out of province. Some people may look at doing investment income coming out of a basement apartment, for example. And then others may just look at doing something with additional family members or friends, and they buy it all together in order to make something a little bit more affordable for them.
The PCs are promising $1 billion in loans for municipal infrastructure projects needed to get homes built. New Democrats say they'll create a separate agency to lead housing construction and allow fourplexes in all neighborhoods. The Liberals say they'll cut development charges on new builds and eliminate the land transfer tax for first-time home buyers. The Ontario Greens will do the same, and they're pledging to build 2 million homes in Ontario cities.
Harm reduction advocates are urging the next Ontario government to keep the province's supervised drug consumption sites open.
For more on the vigils being held as part of a province-wide day of action, let's go live to CP24's Melissa Duggan. Melissa.
Hi there, Lena. Yeah, rallies held today in 6 cities across our province, including here in Toronto, in Hamilton, in Guelph. Just to name a few. And this issue really coming to a head for harm reduction workers for a couple of reasons. One, they want this to be in the forefront at the moment, something that they want people to think about ahead of Election Day, which is on Thursday. And also they're looking ahead to a deadline. The end of next month, March 31st, is when 10 of these supervised consumption sites across the province are set to close. That was an announcement that was made by the provincial government over the summer. 5 of those locations in Toronto. The government saying they are too close to schools and to daycares. They heard from families saying that they feel less safe because of those sites. But harm reduction advocates say that lives will be lost by closing these sites. We were talking with outreach worker Lorraine Lamb. She said just that. Here's what else she had to say.
I think it's important for people to recognize that closing these supervised sites means that drug use will continue, the toxic drug supply will continue to exist, and we're going to be reliant on EMS services to provide supports that actually these sites were already doing, which is actually going to increase the healthcare wait times in hospitals. And so I think that's definitely something to consider. I think the other thing to consider is, again, like, let's say, we discovered that the alcohol that people are drinking for social reasons was tainted. We wouldn't just shut down bars and shut down the LCBO. No, we would suggest measures to promote safety.
Organizers of today's rallies say since 2018, more than 23,000 people have died linked to this toxic drug crisis. The province is set to open up new sites, though, in the coming months, aimed at helping homelessness and addiction, but supervised consumption of drugs will not be permitted at these sites. Back to you.
Thank you for this, Melissa. Well, Ontario Place for All is asking for a police investigation into the government's plan to transform that site.
Ontario Place for All says that the call for development was not fair, accountable, or transparent, and that the province did not follow Ontario's Realty Directive. The group says that the process breached real estate law and ethical standards, as government officials met with some bidders several times before, during, and after the bidding process. Advocates want police to step in to ensure the Ford government is held accountable.
5:48:49, 5 degrees. This is Live at 5.
And coming up, an update from the Vatican on the condition of Pope Francis.
Welcome back. The Vatican says Pope Francis remains in critical but stable condition as he continues to battle pneumonia.
The 88-year-old pontiff has been in hospital since Valentine's Day with a lung infection that doctors have described as complex. The Vatican says that the Pope underwent a follow-up CAT scan today to check on the infection, but didn't say what it found. It did say that the results of blood tests were also stable, and Francis has not experienced any new respiratory episodes. Doctors say that their outlook for the Pope is guarded.
And Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly says Canada needs to be ready for anything after U.S. President Donald Trump said tariffs on Canadian goods would be going forward.
We think that actually the U.S.'s benefit from our relationship, but at the same time, we will defend Canadian jobs. We will absolutely fight back, and we will be there to defend Canada's and Canadians' way of living.
The tariffs are going forward on time.
Okay, Trump says that 25% duties on most Canadian products are unscheduled for next month. They were supposed to go into effect this month, but they were postponed until March 4th after Canada agreed to introduce new border security measures. And the federal government says if U.S. tariffs are implemented, it will place retaliatory duties on billions of dollars worth of American goods.
Well, more than 238,000 people have signed an online petition calling for Elon Musk's Canadian citizenship to be revoked. The petition says Musk is engaged in activities that go against the national interest of this country and that he's become a member of a foreign government that's attempting to erase Canadian sovereignty.
Well, the Canada Border Services Agency says that it's intercepted nearly $3 million worth of illegal drugs from trucks trying to enter Alberta from the U.S.
Officials say 186 kilograms of methamphetamine and 42 kilograms of cocaine were seized from 2 commercial trucks at the border. Both trucks were destined for Calgary. The CBSA arrested the drivers who were then handed over to the Alberta RCMP.
It's 5:54. This is Live at 5.
The Leafs will return to Boston tonight for the first time since Canada beat the U.S. in overtime to win the Four Nations face-off final. Stay with us. Welcome back. The Vatican says Pope Francis remains in critical but stable condition as he continues to battle pneumonia.
The 88-year-old pontiff has been in hospital since Valentine's Day with a lung infection that doctors have described as complex. The Vatican says that the Pope underwent a follow-up CAT scan today to check on the infection, but didn't say what it found. It did say that the results of blood tests were also stable, and Francis has not experienced any new respiratory episodes. Doctors say that their outlook for the Pope is guarded.
And Foreign Affairs Minister Mélanie Joly says Canada needs to be ready for anything after U.S. President Donald Trump said tariffs on Canadian goods would be going forward.
We think that actually the U.S.'s benefit from our relationship, but at the same time, we will defend Canadian jobs. We will absolutely fight back, and we will be there to defend Canada's and Canadians' way of living.
The tariffs are going forward on time.
Okay, Trump says that 25% duties on most Canadian products are unscheduled for next month. They were supposed to go into effect this month, but they were postponed until March 4th after Canada agreed to introduce new border security measures. And the federal government says if U.S. tariffs are implemented, it will place retaliatory duties on billions of dollars worth of American goods.
Well, more than 238,000 people have signed an online petition calling for Elon Musk's Canadian citizenship to be revoked. The petition says Musk is engaged in activities that go against the national interest of this country and that he's become a member of a foreign government that's attempting to erase Canadian sovereignty.
Well, the Canada Border Services Agency says that it's intercepted nearly $3 million worth of illegal drugs from trucks trying to enter Alberta from the U.S.
Officials say 186 kilograms of methamphetamine and 42 kilograms of cocaine were seized from 2 commercial trucks at the border. Both trucks were destined for Calgary. The CBSA arrested the drivers, who were then handed over to the Alberta RCMP.
It's 5:54. This is Live at 5.
The Leafs will return to Boston tonight for the first time since Canada beat the U.S. in overtime to win the Four Nations face-off final. Stay with us.
The Leafs will try for a third straight win as they continue their road trip tonight in Boston.
You have to score. Now a chance in front of Robertson scores!
Nick Robertson scored twice on Sunday to lead Toronto to a 5-2 victory in Chicago. The Leafs lead the Atlantic Division with 72 points, while the Bruins are a point out of the second wildcard spot. Puck drop tonight is at 7 o'clock.
Right back comes Haley Skamura. Stops up, shoots, pass save, rebound, centering pass, they score!
And the Toronto Scepters will go for a 7th straight win tonight in Montreal. Now, the Scepters' last loss was against the Victoire. This was on January 30th, while their last loss in regulation was January 22nd. And Toronto is just 2 points behind Montreal for top spot in the PHWL. The game gets underway tonight at 7.
Redirects RJ. Yes, he did.
And the Raptors are also taking on Boston this evening in the final game of their homestand. The Raptors crushed the Suns on Sunday, making 23-pointers in the 127-109 victory. The Celtics sit second in the East, and they have won 5 straight games. Tip-off is tonight at 7 o'clock. All right, we are following developing news on the Gardiner this evening. Toronto police are responding to reports of a vehicle driving the wrong way on the Gardiner. We're giving you a live shot of the expressway now. You can see a number of emergency crews are there. Here's the information that we're working with. Toronto police say, again, they had reports of a vehicle driving the wrong way, a vehicle traveling westbound in the eastbound lanes. Toronto police are responding to this. You can see a heavy police presence in the area, and they are asking motorists to use extreme caution in the area. We're going to keep a close eye on this developing story. Our adjuvant and CIA Bois keeping a close eye on that as well. She's going to have a live update coming up at 7 o'clock. So keep it here on CP24.
Right now it's 5:58, holding at 5 above 0. This is Toronto's breaking news, CP24.
Thank you so much for joining us. CTV News at 6 is coming up next.